Hello and welcome to today's series. Today I'm going to be talking about how to register a company limited by guarantee in Nigeria. A company limited by guarantee is a rarely used type of company, but very beneficial depending on your aim and purpose for settling for this type of structure of company, right? But before I get down to the details, I have a very simple request to make. If you find this video useful to you, please do us a favor. Ensure that you subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share it to anyone you believe will find this channel or even this particular video useful to them. We will really appreciate it. Now let's get right to the subject of today: how to register a company limited by guarantee in Nigeria. We are going to be providing you with a step-by-step guide that covers the requirements and the procedure for registering a company limited by guarantee in Nigeria. So let's get right into it. What is a company limited by guarantee? The law defines a company limited by guarantee as a company that is formed for the purpose of promoting certain objectives such as promotion of arts, it could be sports, even charity objectives, education, um, and religion and the likes, right? But the peculiar thing about a company limited by guarantee is that although it's a company, which means that it is established for making profits, the profits generated by that company is only used for the purpose of promoting the objective for which the non-profit making objective for which it is established. This structure, this kind of company is suitable for companies that have corporate social responsibility goals. They use these kinds of entities to promote their CSR project goals, right? It is also ideal for setting up non-profit making ventures, but in this kind of non-profit would also be permitted to make profits. Social enterprises fall under this kind of category. So on the one hand, the company is buying and selling, making profit, but the profit is not distributed amongst the members of a company limited by guarantee. The money is solely used to promote the aims and objectives for which it is established. I hope I've been able to explain what a company limited by guarantee is all about. Now that I've done that, someone might be asking, is a company limited by guarantee not similar to registering an incorporated trustee in Nigeria? The answer is no, and I'm going to be sharing 5 simple differences. Number one difference is in terms of the purpose or the definition. Like I defined earlier, a company limited by guarantee is established to make profits, but the profit is used to promote non-profit making goals and objectives, right? However, an incorporated trustee is established solely for the purpose of promoting non-profit making ventures, and they do not make profits. They only earn revenue by virtue of through grants or donations. They do not go into buying and selling. So they are at first basis considered as non-profit making ventures. Secondly, the consent of the Attorney General is needed for the registration or formation of a company limited by guarantee, as we are going to explain when we get to the area of the procedures. But this is not applicable in the case of registering an incorporated trustee. You do not need the consent of the Attorney General. The third point is in terms of the class of members. So in a company limited by guarantee, you have the directors, you have the members, and the secretary. However, in the case of a company, an incorporated trustee rather, you just have board of trustees that consists of a chairman and a secretary and other executive roles as the case may be, right? Another difference is that the rules governing the company limited by guarantee is the memorandum and articles of association, just like other types of companies. However, in the case of an incorporated trustee, the governing law that governs how an incorporated trustee is organized or operated on is the constitution. right? And finally, we also have the governing body, right? So the governing body in the case of um, a company limited by guarantee is governed by the board of directors. However, the governing body for an incorporated trustee is referred to as the board of trustees. I hope I've been able to create a clear distinction between a company limited by guarantee and an incorporated trustee. Now let's get to the next point. What are the requirements for registering a company limited by guarantee in Nigeria? Now in Nigeria, you need a minimum of 3 proposed names for consent to register. Just like when you registering a company or an incorporated trustee, you apply for consent to use a name, but you're supposed to provide at least a minimum of 3 names, not one, right? And then you're supposed to also provide the aims and objectives of the organization. So it's just a brief description of what this company limited by guarantee is going to be all about. What are they promoting, right? What are they all about? So that's what you need to provide. You also need to provide the address of the organization. Of course, the address would include the house number, the street name, right? The local government area of that address, the city, the state, and the country. And then you also need to provide at least one director and the details of that director, right? It could also be more than one, but at least a minimum of one director is required. Also, you are also supposed to provide a minimum of 2 members or subscribers to the company limited by guarantee. Now, it's important to note this. Where the members are made up of foreigners, it is very important that a Nigerian must be a member of that company. So, a company limited by guarantee cannot be completely foreign, owned by foreigners. At least it's important that you have a Nigerian be a member for various reasons, right? It helps for compliance reasons, even license as the case may be, even after registration. Now, the other requirement is you need to have a secretary for a company limited by guarantee, and you provide their details. The details of the directors, the members, and the secretary includes just their names, phone number, email, residential address, date of birth, nationality, right? And then you also need valid means of identification of all the members, including the directors, the secretary, uh, and the members of the company limited by guarantee. And finally, you need the signatures of the directors, members, and secretary of the company to be able to upload and submit during the application process. Now, what is the procedure for registering a company limited by guarantee in Nigeria? In Nigeria, like I said, there are various processes, right? The first procedure is to apply for the consent to use either of the 3 proposed names for registration. So unlike the case of registering a business name or a company where you reserve names, in the case of a company limited by guarantee, you apply for the consent of the registrar general, right, to register that company. So to register either of the 3 names you submit. So once the application for consent is granted, one of the names out of the 3 names will be approved, and that is the name you will be using for the subsequent application process. Now the next phase is to get the consent of the Attorney General. The consent of the law gives the Attorney General 30 days, to be able to approve or give the consent. It's also important to note that there are certain kinds of, depending on the aims and objectives of that company limited by guarantee, the individual or the applicant is required to provide a letter of no objection. For instance, where the organization is registered for the purpose of carrying out a particular kind of research, and of course, we already know that in Nigeria, there are certain ministerial departments or agencies that are into research, maybe agricultural research, for instance. It will be required that we get, or that applicant gets, a letter of no objection from the ministry that is in charge of such or handles the kind of research you're going into. So while you're submitting your application for consent from the AG, it's important that you confirm or verify that this kind of activities or aims of objectives of this type of company requires or does not require a letter of no objection. Where it requires a letter of no objection, please ensure that you get that letter of no objection first so that you can submit it alongside your application for the AG's consent, right? Universities too are also required to get a letter of no objection. So there are many others. Just do your findings. If you need to work with a consultant or work yes, with a consultant to make your work easier, then do that. They will help with their experience to be able to take care of issues like this, right? Now, once the AG's consent is sought and granted, you now proceed to the next step, which has to do with submitting the application for registration alongside the AG's consent documents to the Corporate Affairs Commission for final registration and approval. However, there are situations where you might not get a response from the Attorney General within 30 days or get a consent or any kind of feedback, whether it's a consent or a query from them. In a situation where you do not get consent or any feedback from the Office of the Attorney General after submitting your application, the law empowers you to proceed to to effect a newspaper publication disclosing your intention to register this company in at least 3 national dailies. The publication must be done for at least 28 days. And once that is satisfied, you can submit the application alongside the newspaper publication and other documents to the Corporate Affairs Commission for final registration and approval. So these are the procedures in terms of procedures for registering a company limited by guarantee, and I hope you found it very useful. Now, a question you might ask are, what are the documents that are provided as proof or evidence of registration of my company limited by guarantee? It's simple. You get your certificate of registration, you get your status report, or what they refer to as application for registration of company, and you get your articles, memorandum and articles of association of the company. Those are the 3 official documents that are handed over to you as proof of registration or incorporation of a company limited by guarantee. Next question you might ask is, how long does it take to register? Now, registering a company limited by guarantee can take a period of 3 months to 9 or even 10 months, and that depends on several factors. For instance, maybe your inability to provide the required documents for your application or registration. Like, for instance, I mentioned earlier about certain kinds of activities or yes, certain kinds of aims and objects that requires getting the letter of no objection from a relevant ministerial department or ministry department or agency. Now, if you've not been able to get that, you're going to be asked to get that. And getting that might take a while. There is also the factor of inability to get the consent of the Attorney General on time, or maybe it's at the AG's office and maybe it's being queried, so there might be delays in that process as well. And just the accuracy of the application process entirely. So those are the factors that might give rise to a delay in having your company limited by guarantee form. But ideally, 2 to 3 months you should have it ready, all things, if everything is in place, right? Now, can a foreigner register a limited by guarantee? Of course, a foreigner can register a company limited by guarantee, but the foreign members must take note of the requirements stated earlier, which means that at least a Nigerian must be a member of that company limited by guarantee. So that is everything you need to know about registering a company limited by guarantee in Nigeria, including the requirements and the procedures. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, don't forget to like this video, share it, and also subscribe to our channel. And until I come your way again, my name is Cynthia Tishon, and I'm saying bye for now.